Rain poured over the Navy base as soldiers rushed to and fro, soaked boots splashing in the puddles. A storm had rolled in from the east, angry clouds roaring like they knew something no one else did. And then, without warning, she appeared. A single figure walked through the base gates. Her uniform was torn, her face covered in dried blood and mud, her hair soaked and sticking to her cheeks. Her steps were uneven, almost dragging. She looked like a ghost, but she was real. The guards didn't even know what to say. They just stared, frozen. Commander Elias stepped out of the main building when the alarm buzzed. His assistant whispered something in his ear, and his eyes widened. "That's impossible," he muttered. She was declared missing, presumed dead. The girl didn't stop. She kept walking straight toward the heart of the base, past stunned soldiers, through silence that seemed to grow heavier. With each step, some turned away. Others watched with narrowed eyes. No one reached out to help. No one asked her name. They already knew. Lieutenant Mara Yelrin, age 21, youngest combat engineer on Mission Echo 9, one of 12 soldiers, sent to the dead zone, an operation so secret that most higher-ups never even heard of it. All 12 had disappeared. No word, no signal, no buzz. Until now, she reached the main building entrance and collapsed. Not unconscious, just done walking. They rushed her to the medical wing. She didn't speak. Her eyes stared ahead, but her mouth never moved. The doctors checked for internal bleeding, infection, broken bones. Her pulse was steady, too steady, like she wasn't even alive, just moving out of habit. Her wounds were old, 3 days at least. Deep cuts down her shoulder, scratches across her legs, strange bruises in shapes that didn't match weapons or debris. The nurse tried to ask what happened. She blinked once. That was it. Commander Elias paced in his office. The girl who wasn't supposed to be alive was now lying in his medwing, breathing. The rest of the squad was still missing. His desk was already stacked with reports and classified memos, warning him not to speak of the mission to anyone. He looked at the picture. On the wall, his own daughter, same age as Mara. He sighed, then picked up the phone. "Get me Admiral Kareen, now." Admiral Kareen sat in a dark conference room halfway across the country. He listened in silence as Elias explained everything. The Admiral didn't react. No movement, no breath. Then he said softly, "Do not let her talk to anyone outside the base, not even family, not until I arrive." Elias asked why. The Admiral replied, "Because if she remembers what really happened, we're all in danger." Back in the medwing, Mara slowly sat up. Her movements were stiff, careful, as if her body didn't trust itself anymore. A nurse helped her drink water. She flinched at the touch but didn't pull away. She still hadn't said a word. The lights in the room flickered. The machines monitoring her heartbeat spiked for a second, then calmed. Later that night, alone in her room, she stood in front of the mirror. The pale fluorescent light buzzed above her. She pulled up her sleeve and stared at a long scar running down her upper arm. She ran her fingers over its "I'm most afraid." Then, lifting her shirt slightly, she looked at the scar on her side. It was not like the others. It curved, almost like a symbol. She whispered something too low for the camera to pick up. Her eyes narrowed. Then she turned off the light and lay on the bed without closing her eyes. The next morning, Elias received a file, a thick envelope stamped with a red triangle military code for "Do not copy, burn after reading." Inside was the original mission briefing for Echo 9. The operation was never supposed to be a rescue or search. It was a field test. They sent those soldiers in to test something buried underground. Elias looked up. "We used them," he whispered. "We sent them in like bait." His voice broke. Mara was called to a private interrogation room. 2 senior officers sat across from her, one young, one old. Both wore fake concern on their faces. "We just want to help you," the older one said. "Tell us what happened." She said nothing. The younger officer leaned forward. "Why did you come back alone?" She blinked. No expression, no tears, just silence. Then something strange happened. She reached under the table and began tracing something into her leg with her finger. Over and over, the young officer noticed. "What are you writing?" he asked. She didn't answer. He leaned down and quietly memorized it. 7-4-2-N-9-3-W. He typed the numbers into his device later. Coordinates a place far off grid, an island used decades ago for testing, now marked as communications black zone. No satellites, no signals, nothing comes in or out. He showed the map to the older officer. "Should we tell the Admiral?" he asked. The older officer looked uneasy. "No, not yet." That night, in her room, Mara took off the hospital gown and checked her side again. This time, she pressed on the scar and winced. Blood came out, not much, but enough to prove the wound hadn't healed right. But it wasn't just blood. A tiny shard of something. Silver poked out of the flesh. She took a pair of tweezers from the drawer and gritted her teeth. The hallway, camera caught no sound, but the lights in her room blinked twice. She pulled the shard out slowly, her body trembling. When it was free, she held it up. It was no bullet, no metal from an explosion. It was smooth, curved, like a piece of a disc. Her hand trembled. Then, to her shock, it lit up. A faint red glow spread across the surface of the shard. It flickered, then projected a small hologram into the air. She gasped, The hologram showed her squad. They were alive, dirty, injured, yelling into a black camera. One of them shouted, "They're not what they said. Run. Run if you can." Then the hologram vanished. Her hands shook violently. The shard fell to the ground. She stared at the ceiling, eyes wide. The next morning, the medic who had helped her the day before didn't show up to work. No messages, no answer. Security searched his quarters. Empty. His car was still in the lot, but he was gone. Only one thing was found in his locker, a single dog tag. It was Mara's. Elias slammed the file shut on his desk. He had seen enough. He walked into the Admiral's temporary base office and demanded answers. "What were they doing out there?" he shouted. "What did you send them into?" The Admiral didn't blink. "That's not your concern, Commander." Ilias's voice broke. "A young girl came back, torn, broken, mute, and you act like this is paperwork." The Admiral leaned forward. "You want the truth?" he whispered. "She was never supposed to return. The experiment ended. She survived it. That's the problem." Elias froze. "She shouldn't be alive," the Admiral continued. "And if she is, we need to know what she remembers before someone else finds out." That night, Mara sat in her bed again. Her side was bandaged. The shard was gone. She didn't know who took it, but she knew they were watching now. She pulled out a pen and notebook, pages blank. She wrote only one line: "They made me remember." Then she ripped the page, folded it, and hid it under the bed frame. Far away, the lights in the Admiral's quarters flickered. And at midnight, someone tapped softly on Mara's door. Once, twice, then silence. She didn't answer, but she didn't sleep either. The next morning, the air on the base was heavy. Soldiers walked slower. Whispers floated down hallways like wind. The girl Mara Yelrin was now a living question. Her silence, her return, her eyes that saw too much. None of it made sense. But fear doesn't wait for answers. It spreads when something feels wrong. And now, even the toughest officers avoided looking directly at her. Admiral Kareen stood at the window of his temporary office, hands behind his back. He had served 30 years in command. Seen war, seen loss, seen soldiers come back with eyes that no longer blinked, but never like this. Never like her. "She shouldn't be alive," he whispered again to himself. That phrase repeated like an echo in his mind. His assistant entered. "Sir, Commander Elias is waiting outside." The Admiral nodded. "Let him in." Elias marched in, face hard. "We need to talk." "I figured," Kareen replied. "She remembers something. She's just not saying it. And that's exactly what worries me," the Admiral said calmly. "You're not hearing me," Elias said, stepping closer. "Someone tried to scare her last night. Her door had marks on it. A tap in the middle of the night. You know what that means?" Karen didn't flinch. "A warning." "Exactly," Elias said. "But from who?" "Us." The Admiral turned and stared out the window again. "Sometimes we're not the only ones in the room, even on our own base." Mara sat at the edge of her hospital bed, holding the same pen from the night before. Her hands were steady today, but her breath was shallow. The note she wrote was still hidden under the bed frame. She hadn't touched it again. She didn't have to. She remembered what she wrote. "They made me remember." Suddenly, the door opened. A new face stepped in. Not a soldier. Not a medic. A young man in civilian clothes, thin glasses, quiet shoes. He introduced himself softly. "I'm Milo, legal department. I was sent to speak with you." She looked at him, then down at the pen in her hand. "I know you don't want to talk," Milo continued. "That's fine. But I'm here to protect your side of the story. You don't have to speak now. You just have to know that someone is listening." He placed a folded envelope on her bedside table. "When you're ready, then." Without waiting, he left. Mara didn't open the envelope right away. Instead, she stared at the door for a long time. There was something different about that man. Something not polished, not rehearsed. He looked scared. Not of her, but for her. Across the base, Elias sat alone in the briefing room. In front of him was a tablet on it, an old mission log from 3 years ago. Project Warden. Code red clearance. It detailed a secret experiment in the Western Zona test to combine cognitive AI with human memory under live combat stress. The volunteers were listed as willing participants. The last name on the list, Yelrin M. Elias, clenched his jaw. Volunteers. She was 17 when this was approved. Her record showed no family, no guardian signature, just a blank space. He picked up the phone again. "Sir," said a voice on the other end. "We've lost contact with the medic who first treated her. His GPS was disabled." "I know," Elias said. "He's not the first to disappear." That night, Milo returned. He sat across from Mara and gently pushed a recorder onto the table. "I'm not here to force you, but if you're ready to tell your story, even a small piece of it, now is the time." She looked at the recorder. Her lips moved, but not enough to make words. Then she reached into her pillow and pulled out the envelope he had left. She opened it. Inside was a copy of her file, but not the official one. This one was from deep storage. It included her intake form from the refugee program after the border war, her childhood medical notes, and a stamped approval for non-traditional testing. No signature from her, just a military stamp. Milo watched her eyes move across the paper. She didn't cry, but her fingers tightened. She pushed the recorder back toward him and whispered one word, tomorrow. The next morning she was gone. Her room was empty. No sign of forced exit, no broken windows. Cameras had been disabled between 3:14 and 3:17 a.m., exactly 3 minutes of darkness. The only thing left behind was the folded note under her bed. Elias found it and read the single line aloud. They made me remember. Admiral Karen called an emergency lockdown. No one leaves, no one enters. She was taken, not vanished. But Elias wasn't convinced. He believed Mara left on her own, or maybe someone helped her escape. The coordinates she had drawn in the first interview, he checked them again. The island. If she was gone, that's where she was going. He approached the Admiral. Let me take a team. I can find her. No, Karine said sharply. That zone is sealed. She's heading there. Karen's voice turned cold. Then let her. If she walks into the fire again, maybe she'll finally burn like the rest. Elias stared at him, disgusted. That evening, Milo received a message on his secure tablet. No sender, just a voice file. He played it. Mara's voice. If I don't make it back, tell Elias, the scar isn't the real wound. The real wound is what they took before they stitched me up. Milo sat frozen. The next day, Elias broke protocol. He took a private ship and left before authorization cleared. He was heading to the island. He brought no backup, just a pistol, a tracker, and a picture of Mara taken before the missions, smiling in uniform, whole, untouched. It took him 12 hours to reach the Black Zone. As his ship crossed the last known border, all signals went dark. His comms died. His GPS shut off. Only the old compass worked now. He moved toward the center of the island. The trees were dead. The ground was scorched in places. Old fences wrapped in rusted wires stood broken along the path. Then he saw it, a bunker, partially buried under sand and time, but still there. He entered slowly. No sound, no guards. And then, in the corner, a flicker of movement. Mara. She stood against the far wall, holding something in her hands. A metal case. She looked at Elias. Her eyes were wider now, not scared, not broken, just ready. You came, she said softly. I had to, he replied. They're calling you a threat. She opened the case. Inside were files, videos, memory logs, her team's last hours. They tried to erase us, she said, but I remember everything now. He stepped closer. You need to come back. I will, she said, but not to hide. As she spoke, lights began to flicker. Alarms triggered deep underground. The systems weren't fully dead. Elias looked at her. What did you activate? She looked at him and said, only this, the truth. Back on the base, Admiral Karen watched. As a red light blinked on his monitor, the system had gone live again. The Black Zone was awake, and Mara was no longer just a survivor. She was a witness. A cold wind cut through the trees as Mara and Commander Elias stood in the heart of the dead zone. The bunker around them buzzed quietly, machines waking up after years of silence. Wires hung from the ceiling like vines, old lights flickered, and the smell of burned metal filled the air. Mara didn't flinch. She stared at the open metal case on the table in front of her. Inside were hard drives, paper files, and a small cracked screen that still pulsed red. It was all that remained of Operation Econine. Elias looked at her. Are you sure you want to do this? She nodded. The truth has to be seen. They'll come after you, he said. They already are, she replied. Back on the base, Admiral Karen stared at the blinking red light on his console. He hadn't seen that signal in over 5 years. The last time it blinked, a lab went silent, and a team of 12 vanished. Now it was alive again. His assistant stood behind him, unsure what to say. Karen finally spoke. She found the source. What do we do, sir? The assistant asked. The Admiral turned. We prepare for fallout. Inside the bunker, Elias connected his portable data scanner to one of the old drives. It clicked softly, then a video loaded. He and Mara watched silently. It showed her squad smiling, joking, setting up camp inside the bunker. Then came the screaming. One by one, the team began collapsing. Not from enemy fire, but from inside. Something had been injected into their suits. One soldier clawed at his helmet, yelling, they lied to us. This wasn't a rescue, it's a trap. Another screamed, we were the test. Then static. Elias shut the screen. His hands trembled. How did you survive? He asked. Mara looked at the far wall. There was a mark burned into the metal, a symbol, twisted and sharp. She walked over and touched it. I was the controlled subject. They never told me. I didn't collapse like the others because I wasn't infected. I was observed. But why send you in at all? Elias asked. To see if I'd turn, she whispered. To see if the experiment would break my mind like it broke theirs. He stared at her. Did it? She looked back. Not completely. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed above. They both froze. Elias drew his weapon. Footsteps? Heavy, fast, trained. Someone else was in the bunker. Mara moved quickly, grabbing the case and sliding it under a broken panel in the floor. If they take me, promise you'll get this out. I will, Elias said. The metal door above groaned, then slammed open. 3 soldiers in black stepped down into the room. No insignia, no name tags, only face masks and glowing red visors. Elias aimed. His pistol? Don't move. They didn't listen. One raised a device and sent a blinding flash of light across the room. Mara screamed. Everything went white. When she woke up, she was back on the base. Her wrists were bound, her mouth dry. The room was dark, cold, small, not a hospital, not a cell either, something in between. A voice crackled from above. Welcome back, Subject 9. She didn't answer. You've caused quite a mess, the voice said, but we still own you. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Not anymore. In another part of the base, Elias had been arrested. He was dragged into a chamber where Admiral Karen stood waiting. The Admiral's face was calm, but his eyes were filled with something darker. I trusted you, Karen said, and you went rogue. She was trying to survive, Elias said. You used her, like a weapon. She was designed to be one, Karen snapped. She was built for battle, trained for loyalty, engineered for pain. Elias clenched his fists. She's a person. She's a file, Karine said coldly, and files can be deleted. Back in the cell, Mara leaned her head against the wall. The scar on her side ached. Her mind drifted back to the day they took her from the refugee shelter. She remembered the cold hallway, the kind nurse with the trembling voice, and the man in uniform who told her she'd be a hero. Just a few tests, he said. You'll help save lives. She was 15. She had signed nothing. She had no choice. Suddenly, the door opened. Milo entered, carrying a small black briefcase. His face looked older, tired, afraid. They let me in for 5 minutes, he said. That's all. You have the file, she asked. He opened the case and handed her a small data stick. The video from the bunker? I made a copy before they erased the drive. They'll kill you for this, she said. I know, he replied, but they'll kill you first. She took the stick and swallowed hard. You need to get it out. Show the world. I can't, he whispered. They're watching every channel. But maybe you can. She didn't understand. Then he pointed at the camera in the corner of the room. They haven't shut off your feed yet. You're still listed as a medical subject. It goes straight to the civilian health servers. Her eyes widened. A crack in the wall. A way out. As he left, she stood and faced the camera. She took off the top part of her uniform and turned to show her back. The scars there told a story, dozens of them. Layered. Precise. Not from war. From surgery. She held up the stick. If anyone sees this, she said, voice shaking, I was never a soldier. I was never a volunteer. I was a child. They cut me open to see how much pain a body can take. She placed the stick into a small black port under the wall meant for medical scans. The video began uploading. Then the door burst open. Karine entered, flanked by guards. He saw the upload bar on the wall. Shut it down, he screamed, but it was too late. Across the country, in hospitals and military clinics, the feed went live. Doctors, nurses, veterans, and patients watched in stunned silence as Mara's face filled their screens. They saw the bunker, the screaming soldiers, the truth. The upload ended, and the feed cut. But the world had already seen. Elias was released within the hour. Public outcry flooded the system. Protests broke out outside the base. Former soldiers came forward with matching scars. Whistleblowers from the labs began leaking files. The government tried to contain it, but it was too big, too fast. In her cell, Mara waited. The door opened. This time, no guards. No Admiral, just a nurse, crying. You started a storm, the nurse whispered. They're calling you the voice of the broken. Mara didn't answer. She stood slowly. The nurse handed her a new uniform, not a military one. Civilian. They're releasing you. She blinked. Why? Because now the whole world is watching. As she stepped out into the hallway, cameras clicked. Reporters shouted. Soldiers stood at attention. Not out of fear, but out of respect. Admiral Karen had resigned at morning, but he didn't leave quietly. He issued a statement that stunned everyone. She endured more than any soldier should, he said on live television, and I stood by while it happened. I can no longer pretend I served honor. I served orders. For the first time, he looked shaken. When Mara was asked to speak at the tribunal, she walked in slow but proud. She stood before the panel. This scar, she said, lifting her shirt slightly to reveal the symbol on her side, is not just mine. It belongs to every voice that was silenced, every soldier forgotten, every child taken in the name of power. The room was silent, and then the crowd stood, one by one in silence. Even the panel didn't speak. Mara had said enough. The sun was bright the day she walked out of the base, but it felt colder than ever. Reporters stood behind barriers, cameras flashing, voices calling her name. She didn't speak. She didn't wave. She just kept walking through the gates, past the guards, into a world that had finally heard her voice. But freedom didn't feel like a gift. It felt like a burden. A week passed. News channels looped her story day and night. Social media exploded. Hashtags, petitions, street marks had something to say. They called her the Scar Witness, Project 9, the weapon that lived. But Mara Yelrin just wanted silence. Every day since her release, she sat in a small apartment far from the capital, trying to feel human again. She drank soup. She stared at the window. She picked up a pen to write, but the words never came. Milo came to visit her 3 days later. His hair was messier, his shirt wrinkled. He looked exhausted, but proud. He brought a bag of documents. They want to compensate you, he said. The military? They're offering a settlement, a public apology, lifetime medical care. She didn't look up. They want to shut me up. Milo didn't argue, he just sat down. You changed. Something the files you leaked for other survivors have come forward. They have the same scars, same story. Mara blinked slowly. Do they remember? One of them does, he said. A man named J. Lauren. He said you saved his life. He's asking to meet you. She didn't answer. That night, she dreamt of the bunker again. Of fire, of screaming, of a red room with a metal table, her wrists strapped down. She felt the blade, heard the doctor's voice. You're strong, Mara, stronger than the rest. And then, silence. When she woke up, she was shaking. She got dressed and called Milo. Take me to him. They met in a small clinic near the edge of the city. The man was older now, early 30s, with a deep scar running across his neck. He stood when she entered and gave a weak smile. You're real, he said. She nodded slowly. I didn't think I'd ever see you again, he said. Last time I did, you were dragging me out of the fire. I don't remember dragging anyone, she said softly. Jay looked down. That's okay. I remember enough for both of us. He told her about the last minutes in the bunker, how the gas came through the vents, how their squad panicked, how Mara, bleeding from the side, still pulled him through the emergency gate. You locked it behind us, he said. You saved me. I heard them scream as the gate shut. Mara swallowed. Hard. I was the only one who didn't get the injection. They were trying to trigger something, Jay said. They thought fear would activate the changes in us. Milo leaned forward. Changes. Jay nodded. The surgery, it wasn't just physical. They added something to our nervous systems. Microreactors supposed to heighten reflexes, shut off pain, speed up thought. But when the body got scared, it went too far. Some of us went blind, some went mad. Mara closed her eyes, and I didn't react at all. Because you were the prototype, Jay whispered. That word shook her. Prototype. She wasn't the strongest, Essie was the first. That evening, back in her apartment, Mara sat on the floor with her shirt lifted, staring at the scar. For the first time, she traced the lines with her fingers, lowly, carefully. She pressed at the center of the curve, where the pain had always been sharpest. A jolt ran through her spine. The lights flickered. She gasped and pulled away. But she knew what she felt, something still inside her. The next day, she walked into a private hospital and asked for a full body scan. The doctor was hesitant, nervous, but her name still carried power. They gave her the scan. She lay inside the tube, eyes closed, fingers trembling. Then the machine beeped. The doctor stared at the screen. There's something embedded near your rib, foreign material. It's not metal, not bone. I don't even know what it is. Mara sat up. Can you take it out? He looked unsure. It's connected to your nerves. Removing it could paralyze you, or worse. She nodded slowly. Schedule the surgery. That night, Milo begged her to wait. You don't know what that thing will do. I already don't feel whole, she said. If it stays inside me, I'm still theirs. I want it gone. The surgery was scheduled for dawn, but the military moved faster before sunrise. Soldiers arrived at the clinic with orders. National security, they said. Patient must be moved to a government facility. Mara refused. The soldiers moved in anyway, but Jay had warned her. She was already gone. They found an empty room, a cold bed, and a broken window. She had escaped. Again, now she was a fugitive. Again, for 3 days, she disappeared. Then, suddenly, she appeared on live stream, broadcast from a hidden room. Mara stared into the camera. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She simply held up her scan results, then lifted her shirt to show the scar again. And then she did something no one expected. She pressed it hard. Her body stiffened, her hands shook, and her eyes changed for a second. They flashed with light. Something triggered. Then she collapsed. The stream went black. Across the country, panic broke out. Was she alive? Was she dead? The military issued a statement. Do not engage. Subject 9 is unstable and dangerous. But people didn't listen. They saw a girl fight the system and risk her life. They saw bravery, not danger. And so they searched for her. Hospitals, shelters, forests, until someone found her. An old farmer saw her stumble into his field at night, bleeding, barely standing. He took her in, no questions, no fear. He just said, "You're safe here." She stayed in his cabin for 4 days. When she awoke, she asked for a mirror. He brought one. She stared at herself for a long time. Her face looked older, her eyes deeper, but something else had changed. The scar was glowing. Faintly, she touched it, and felt warmth like a fire, trapped under her skin. She knew then that it wasn't just a mark, it was a switch. She had been engineered to survive everything, but they never imagined she'd choose to turn the switch on herself. The farmer didn't ask why her skin burned or her hands trembled. He simply brought her soup and sat beside her. After a week, she left. He gave her a coat and said, "The world owes you more than fear." She nodded and walked back into it, Not as a soldier, but as a survivor, ready to reveal what came next. The train moved slowly through the countryside, its windows fogged with cold breath. Mara sat near the back, hood pulled low, face hidden. She hadn't slept properly in days. Her body still ached from the last collapse, and the scar on her side wasn't just glowing now, it pulsed. At first, the light would flicker only when she was angry or afraid, but now it came alive even when she breathed too hard. Something inside her was waking up, and she didn't know if she could stop it. Across the aisle, a young boy stared at her with wide eyes. She looked away. He whispered to his mother, pointing. The woman glanced once, then pulled the boy close. "Don't look," she said. "That's her?" Mara felt the heat in her chest rise. She stood and moved to the next car. 2 soldiers in plain clothes spotted her from a distance and tapped their earpieces. She kept walking, pretending not to notice. At the next stop, she got off early. She disappeared into the woods. A few hours later, Milo received a message. No name, no number. Just a location and a single sentence. "I'm ready to remember." Milo didn't hesitate. He grabbed his bag and drove through the night. By morning, he reached the coordinates. A half-burned field. A forgotten farmhouse. And Mara standing in the doorway. She looked tired, pale, but calm. "I don't want to run anymore," she said softly. "I'll help you," Milo said. She sat him down in the barn. The doors were locked from inside. No one could hear them. She unzipped her coat and lifted her shirt. The scar was brighter now. The skin around it glowed faint orange like hot steel. "I think this was more than just control," she whispered. "It's a trigger, a memory vault." Milo frowned. "What do you mean? I think they put memories inside me?" He blinked. "Whose memories?" She looked away. "Not mine." That night, she let him hook her up to a neural reader, a small machine designed to map memory waves. She lay still, eyes closed, while the machine blinked to life. And then, images, flashes, of war, deserts, cities burning, screams in languages she didn't know, faces that weren't hers. She opened her eyes. "I've never been there." Milo stared at the screen. "These aren't dreams. They're stored memories, like files inside your brain." "Then who do they belong to?" she asked. He looked pale. "I don't know." Later that night, while Milo slept, Mara sat outside the barn, staring at the sky. Her mind felt heavy. Her chest burned. Not from fear, from something else. Pow, she pressed her palm against the scar again. This time, something different happened. A wave of images, dozens of missions, dozens of people, soldiers, scientists, a room full of doctors around a table. She stood there, watching her own body lying unconscious on that table. They were arguing. "She's not stable," one said. "She's remembering things too fast," said another. "She was never meant to hold this much," a woman whispered. Then one man spoke. "She's not meant to survive. She's meant to store and deliver." Mara gasped and pulled her hand away. It was true. She wasn't the experiment. She was the container, back inside. She told Milo everything. "They put something in me," she said, "a backup. For them, for the operation, for every memory they couldn't risk losing." Milo sat down hard. "So all this time, you weren't just surviving, you were carrying their secrets." "And now," she said, "they want them back." "But it's too late," he whispered. "They've already lost control." Suddenly, outside the barn, headlights appeared. In the distance, a convoy, black jeeps. Government? They had been found. Milo grabbed the neural reader and the memory logs. "We have to go now." Mara stood slowly. "No, Mara. We don't have time." I said no. She walked out of the barn, into the cold night. The soldiers stepped out of the jeeps. Weapons raised. Their leader, a woman in a dark coat, stepped forward. "You have something that belongs to us," she said. Mara didn't answer. "You're carrying data that was never meant to reach the public. That's classified memory. Return it now and we can undo the damage." Mara looked at her. "You want your secrets back?" "They're not secrets," the woman said. "They're national defense protocols. They're lives," Mara snapped. "Memories of people you used and erased." "You're not safe," the woman said coldly. "You've become unstable." "I'm not unstable," Mara said, voice steady. "I'm finally awake." Then she reached behind her and pulled out a small transmitter. Milo had built one that could stream neural data directly to the public server. "Walk away," she warned, "or I press it." The woman hesitated. Milo stepped outside, raising his hands. "Let us go." The woman nodded to her soldiers. One stepped forward. Too fast. Mara pressed the button. A wave of red light burst from the transmitter. Across the world, screens flickered. Suddenly, millions of people saw flashes of her stored memories. The bunker, the surgeries, the experiments, the orders, and the words. She was built to remember. The soldiers froze. The woman shouted, "Cut the signal," but it was too late. The world had seen again. Mira's hands shook, her body trembled. Then she collapsed. Milo ran to her side. Her eyes were wide, but she wasn't breathing. He placed his ear to her chest. No heartbeat. She was gone. A week passed. The government called it a tragedy, a collapse due to neurological strain. They tried to paint her as broken, but people didn't believe them anymore. Protests turned into movements. Dozens more survivors stepped forward. J. Lauren led a march through the Capitol, carrying a sign that read, "We are her memory now." Then, something happened at a small memorial built for her outside the Capitol wall. A man lit a candle. Behind him, a figure appeared, a girl in a coat who'd pulled low, face scarred. She lit a candle too, and walked away. Before anyone noticed, Milo saw the footage. He froze, zoomed in. It was her, Mara, alive, and still remembering. Rain fell over the empty train station. A single figure sat on the bench, soaked but calm. Her hood covered her face, but the scar on her side still glowed faintly under the coat. Mara was alive, but not the same. Something had changed in her, something deeper than before. She remembered everything now, not just the battles, not just the screams, but the reason behind it all. She stood as the train arrived. Nobody noticed her step inside. Nobody looked. Just another girl with tired eyes. But somewhere far away, in a secret base deep beneath a frozen mountain, someone did notice. A red light blinked on a control panel. A man in a military uniform stared at it, then slowly turned to his assistant. "She's active again." The assistant nodded. "What do you want us to do?" The man turned, revealing the 4 stars on his shoulder. He wasn't just anyone. He was Admiral Kier, and he whispered one word, "Hunt." Milo sat in his cabin, staring at the last footage of Mara. He had seen her walk away, but even now he didn't understand how. "You died," he said aloud to the empty room. "I saw you stopped breathing." But deep down, he had always believed she wasn't gone. A knock on the door broke his thoughts. J. Lauren stood outside, soaking wet. "She's alive," Jay said, breathless. "We found something." He held up a small device, a tracker. It picked up a pulse. Same biosignature, same scar pattern. Milo took it. The signal was weak, but steady. He looked at Jay, where Jay hesitated, not where Milo's heart dropped. Jay pulled out an old photo. It was Mara, as a child. Next to her stood another girl, same height, same hair, but her eyes were sharper, colder. "She had a sister," Jay said. Milo shook his head. "No records say that." "That's the point," Jay said. "Someone erased her, Mara's twin. Her mirror. Somewhere out there, another version of her was walking free." Meanwhile, Mara arrived at an old hospital, hidden deep in the woods. She walked through the broken doors, past the rusted signs. She knew this place, not from now, but from the memories inside her. This was where it all began. She walked down into the basement, where flickering lights revealed rows of abandoned beds and machines, and there on the far wall, a painting done by a child, 2 girls holding hands, one smiling, the other crying. She reached out and touched it. Then came the voice. "I wondered when you'd come back." Mara turned fast. A woman stepped out of the shadows. Same face, same eyes, same scar. Only this one wore black, and smiled. "You're not me," Mara whispered. The woman stepped closer. "I'm who you were supposed to become." Silence. Then Mara asked, "What's your name?" The woman paused. "They called me Echo." Mara shook her head. "You were the first." Echo nodded. "And you were the backup." Mara stepped back. "Why did they hide you?" "Because I remembered too much too fast," Echo said. "I saw what they were really doing. So they locked me away and built you instead." Mara's heart beat faster. "Why show yourself now?" "Because they've started again," Echo said. "They're building another one, and this time, they don't need us." Suddenly, the walls around them lit up. A hidden door opened. Inside, rows of new pods. Children sleeping in tubes, wires in their heads. Mara gasped. "No." Echo said nothing. Then a screen came on. Admiral Kier's face filled it. "Well done," he said calmly. "You led her right to us." Mara stared at Echo. "You set me up." "No," Echo whispered. "I had to bring you here. You're the only one who can shut it down." Suddenly, the floor shook. Smoke filled the hallway. Soldiers stormed the room. Echo pulled Mara back. "Go." The back stairs. Mara hesitated. "Go." Echo shouted. Mara ran. Bullets flew past. Echo stayed behind, her body hit by a blast. She smiled as she fell. The last thing she whispered was, "Save them." Mara burst through the emergency exit. Into the woods. Into the dark. And vanished again. Milo and Jay received a silent signal that night. An audio clip. A child's voice whispering, "Help us." They followed it to the edge of the northern border. There, in the snow, they found a mark drawn in the ice. A star. Inside it, a name. "Echo," Jay whispered. "She's real." Milo looked toward the mountains. "And Mara's not done." Back at the base, Admiral Kier walked through the ruined lab. Echo's body lay cold on the floor, but her face held a strange peace, one that angered him. "She still thinks she won," he said. Then he turned to his techs. "Begin phase 2. A soldier asked, "What about the girl?" Kier's voice was cold. "She doesn't need to be found. She needs to be feared." Mara reached a small village by dawn. Her body was shaking, her hands bleeding, but her mind was clear now. She had seen everything. The past, the future, the copies, the children, the lies, and she knew one truth. She was never the experiment. She was the weapon they failed to control. And now, she would become their memory, their judge, their Echo. The scar on her side burned again. She didn't flinch. She stared into the mirror. In the small cabin, her eyes no longer soft. They were fire, and behind her, in the reflection a second figure, appeared. Another girl. Another copy, another memory. She turned fast, but the room was empty. She breathed hard. Was she alone? Or was someone still following her? Snow had started falling hard by the time Mara reached the cabin on the edge of the frozen cliffs. It was silent all around. Only the sound of her breath and the crunch of her boots in the snow. Her coat was torn, her side still burned. But she didn't stop. She knew what this place was. She didn't remember it because she had lived here. She remembered it because she had died here once. The wind howled louder, like voices screaming in the distance. Mara closed her eyes and reached out, not with her hands, but with the part of her that had awakened since Echo's death. And then she saw it brief flashes, cold metal tables, voices shouting in panic, a girl screaming in pain, and a tall man watching through a glass window. Admiral Kier. He had been watching since the beginning. Suddenly, a gust of wind pushed open the cabin door. Inside, dust flew everywhere. Broken furniture, burned papers, wires sticking out of the floor. It was a destroyed lab once buried in snow. And in the center, a single metal chair, chains still hanging from its arms. She slowly stepped inside, her eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. Something was pulling her toward the chair. Not fear, not memory. Something else, the truth. She sat down slowly, hands gripping the cold metal. And just then, the floor clicked. A scanner hidden under the seat activated. The old screens in the room flickered and turned on. A recording began to play. She saw herself on the screen, just a child, crying, screaming, begging. Her voice echoed across the empty room. Please don't let them take her. Mara froze. The camera zoomed out. And behind the child another girl, unconscious, pale, wounded. Echo. But it wasn't Echo who was the first. It was Mara. She had been the original. She was the one they broke. Echo was the copy created after the real Mara had been left for dead. The memory hit her like a wave. The pain, the loss, the betrayal. She had been replaced, forgotten, rebuilt, and used, and yet she had survived. Outside, headlights appeared in the trees. Mara stood fast and stepped away from the screen. She pulled her hood up and hid in the shadows. Moments later, two men entered the cabin, one in military gear, the other in a white coat. Scan says she's been here, the doctor said. Her neural signature activated the memory logs. The soldier looked around. Then where is she? Before he could finish the question, a metal pipe struck his back. He dropped to the ground. The doctor tried to run, but Mara stepped in front of him. Where is he? She asked, voice low and shaking. The doctor looked terrified. Who? Admiral Kia. The man hesitated, then whispered, Level 0. Mara's eyes narrowed. Level 0 wasn't a place, it was a person. Admiral Kier had renamed himself that because he believed he was the beginning of everything, and he was. The doctor reached into his coat, but Mara grabbed his wrist and twisted. A small needle dropped to the ground. Poison. He was going to kill himself before giving up anything else. You were going to erase yourself, she said coldly. He nodded. He told us if we ever saw you again, we were to erase everything. She stared him down. Then start talking before I erase you. The doctor shook. There's a new base. Arctic Core, 200 miles north. Underground, no entrance except from above. What's inside? She asked. The doctor didn't answer, so Mara picked up the needle. He cracked. Children, new ones, stronger, faster, no memories. Just orders? Clones? She asked. Not anymore, he whispered. There. Born from your DNA. Mara froze. She dropped the needle. Her hands were shaking now. They're not copies. The doctor continued. There. Your children? Thunder roared outside. Mara couldn't breathe. No, she whispered. But the doctor nodded. He took your blood. From the night you fell in the first attack. He's been using it ever since. You were the perfect prototype. You didn't break. You adapted. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. What do they look like? She asked. Like you, the doctor said. Only, colder, because they don't feel. Mara stepped back and ran. She didn't stop for hours. Through the woods, through the snow, her mind spinning, her chest on fire. She had children, not in the way most mothers did, but something had been created from her without her choice. And now they were being trained to kill. Jay and Milo were already heading north in a stolen military craft. The skies were getting darker as they neared the edge of the Arctic zone. Milo checked the radar. There's a signal coming from 600 feet below the surface. Jay looked worried. We don't have gear for that deep. We'll find another way, Milo said. We always do. Suddenly, a flare shot into the air, bright red, visible even through the storm. Jay grabbed binoculars. It's her. Mara stood alone on the ice, hands raised. They landed fast. Mara stepped inside, her face pale, eyes hollow. They used me, she whispered. Not just once. Again and again. Jay reached for her, but she stepped away. They made children, she said, using my blood. They erased everything from them. No memories, no names. Milo stared at her. Then we get them back. All of them. Mara looked up. And if they can't be saved, he didn't answer, but Jay did. Then we shut it all down. Burn every room. Collapse every tunnel. End every secret. Mara turned to the map. There's only one way in. Shika pointed through the sky. The three of them suited up, Dot and Dove. They landed hard on the ice-covered roof of the Arctic core facility. A round hatch stood before them, locked but. Mara remembered the code. She entered it. It clicked open. Inside dash. Silence, then lights, then footsteps. Children appeared, boys and girls, all with the same face. Her face, staring at her, not moving, not speaking. Jay gasped. They're all you. Milo raised his weapon. Are they hostile? But Mara stepped forward. No, she whispered. She faced the children. One little girl walked toward, her hair tied in braids, same scar, same eyes. Are you our mother? The girl asked. Mara's heart broke. Yes, she whispered. I am. Suddenly alarms. Red lights flashing. Doors locking. Admiral Kier appeared on every screen. I warned you, he said coldly. I gave you a second life, and this is how you repay me. Mara looked around. You stole everything. I gave you purpose. Kier said. You were just a wounded soldier. I turned you into legend. She shook her head. No, you turned me into a ghost. Kier's voice hardened. You won't leave that room. He turned to the soldiers in the command center. Send in the Echo protocol. Milo and Jay looked at Mara. What's that? But she already knew. From the far wall, a door slid open. Out stepped a woman. Same face again, but this time, emotion, just silence. She was dressed in silver armor, body enhanced with implants, skin pale and smooth like glass. Kier's voice echoed again. Meet Echo Prime. Mara whispered. She's the final version. And the girl who called her mother backed away slowly. What's going to happen now? She asked. Mara didn't blink. She stepped forward, facing her final enemy. Now, she said softly, I finish what they started. The walls around Mara pulsed with red light. The alarm kept screaming, yet inside her, there was only silence. Echo Prime stood just 10 feet away, same face, same eyes, same scar, but a heart that had never felt pain, never known loss. She wasn't just a copy, she was the final product. Sharper, stronger, unfeeling, and somewhere deep inside her. Admiral Kier's commands echoed like a ghost. Jay and Milo stepped back. The other children Miraz replicized sit frozen, unsure, watching. Echo Prime tilted her head. You are outdated, she said in a calm voice. You are unstable. You are a threat to the directive. Mara didn't raise her weapon. She simply took a slow step forward. And what is your directive? To survive, Echo Prime replied. To obey, to continue. Mara's hands shook. And what about to feel? To think for yourself. Emotion is weakness, the clone said coldly. You were a failure. I am the cure. Then she lunged. The first strike came faster than anything Mara had faced before. A punch to the ribs, a twist of the shoulder, a kick to the leg. Mara flew across the room, hit the wall, and dropped to her knees. Jay shouted, rushing forward. But Mara lifted her hand. No, she yelled. This is mine. Blood dripped from her mouth. But she stood. Echo Prime's eyes narrowed. You should not be able to rise. Pain limits function. Mara spit the blood aside. Pain also reminds me I'm alive. She rushed forward, this time ducking, sliding, striking hard under Echo's ribs. A direct hit, but Echo didn't even flinch. Milo shouted from behind. A pillar. She's reinforced. Titanium, beneath the skin. Mara could see it now. Every movement Echo made was calculated, robotic. She had no emotion to hold her back, no guilt, no fear. But Mara had something stronger. Memories, love, loss. I remember everything, she whispered as Echo swung again. The night they took me, the way I screamed when they heard Echo, the day I woke up and realized I was no longer human. She blocked a hit and countered with a jab to the neck. But I still chose to feel, I still chose to fight. Echo grabbed her throat and lifted her into the air. You chose to suffer. Mara's feet kicked, vision blurred. She couldn't breathe. But then the small voice of a child cut through the alarm. Let her go, Echo. Paused. Another child spoke. She's not a threat. She's our mother, said a third. Dozens of children, all standing in a half circle around them now. Eyes wide, faces soft. Echo looked at them, confused. This does not compute, she whispered. Mara struggled in her grip, choking out the words. Because love doesn't compute. Suddenly, Echo's hand trembled, her grip loosened. Something was breaking. Inside her code, inside her soul. Mara fell to the ground, gasping. The children stepped in front of her. They formed a wall. Echo looked down at her hand, shaking now. System error. Conflicting input. Jay and Milo slowly approached. She's hesitating, Milo said. That's your edge. Mara stood again, dizzy. No, that's her humanity. It's fighting to live. Echo's head twitched slightly. Silence, she yelled. I must eliminate the threat. But her body didn't move. Suddenly, voice returned through the speakers, now angry and loud. Prime, follow the protocol. Eliminate subject Mara. But Echo's head tilted down. I am not Prime, she whispered, and she turned toward the screen. No, Kier growled. You will obey. Echo walked toward the console. Mara tried to stop her. Wait, what are you doing? But Echo placed Her palm on the control pad. Her eyes turned bright white. All files, all directives, all control. She paused, looked back at Mara, and said something soft. Deleting. Then her body began to shake. Sparks flew from her back. Her voice echoed glitching. Goodbye, Mara. And she collapsed. Lights across the room died out. The alarms stopped. The children stared, silent and scared. Mara fell to her knees beside Echo Prime, her own face peaceful now. Not angry, not cold. Jay crouched beside her. In the end, she chose Mara, wiped her tears. She was me. Milo checked the systems. She wiped everything. All of Kyre's data, all the command structures. Jay frowned. Then, how is he still talking to us? A new screen lit up. It was Kier. Smiling. Double quotes. I expected she'd do that, he said calmly, which is why I have backups. He leaned closer. You think this was my only lab? This was a test site. Mara stood. Where are the others? Kier shrugged. Oh, everywhere. One beneath the ocean, one on the moon. One just 2 miles beneath your feet. The ground suddenly shook. Milo looked around. Self-destruct. No, Jay said, reading the signal. It's a tunnel opening. Something's coming up. Kier smiled. You've stopped one Echo. Let's see how you handle the entire Legion. The screen went black. Mara turned to the children. How many are you? 72. The small girl replied. Jay looked at Mara. Do we run? Mara looked around the lab. No, she said. We rise. She turned to the children. You were made to follow orders, but that's not who you are. You were born from pain, but that doesn't mean you belong to it. She stepped onto a table so they could all see her. You are not weapons. You are not shadows. You are not mistakes. You are mine. One by one, the children nodded. Jay stepped beside her. We train them. We prepare them. Milo smiled. And then we go underground. Mara looked at the cold metal door. To find the real base. To find the rest of me. She picked up Echo Prime's broken body, laid it gently on a table, and whispered, Thank you for choosing to feel. The light flickered above, then went dark. They had no map, no plan, just each other. And the storm that was coming? The tunnel was dark, cold, narrow. Mara held a small light in one hand. In her other hand, she held Jay's fingers tightly. The children followed behind, their footsteps soft, unsure. The ground beneath them rumbled again. They had been walking. For 2 hours. Above them, the lab was gone, sealed by Milo. Destroyed so Kier couldn't track them. But Kier was always a step ahead. Is it really 2 miles down? One of the little girls asked, her voice trembling. Milo nodded. According to the map Echo Prime left in the system, yes. Jay looked at Mara. You sure about this? No, she said honestly. But we don't have a choice. If Kier has more clones down there, more weapons, we need to stop him before he starts another war. As they moved deeper, the air became thinner, then suddenly they reached it. A metal platform, a single elevator, and a keypad. Milo stepped forward. He entered the access code from Echo Prime's memories. The platform lit up. It began to descend. Children huddled close together, silent, as the air filled with tension. Every sound echoed, the creak of metal, the hum of electricity, the soft breathing of 72 frightened souls. Halfway down, the lights dimmed. Jay turned to Mara. You think he knows we're coming? He always knows, she whispered. Finally, the platform stopped. Before them stood a giant black door. No label, no signs. Just silence. Milo touched the control panel. It scanned his hand, then Mara's. The door opened. What they saw inside stopped them cold. The underground chamber was massive. Rows and rows of tanks lined the walls. Inside them floated human forms, hundreds of them. All with Mara's face. Some older, some younger, some not breathing, Milo gasped. Clones. Failed ones, frozen ones. Some still growing. Mara felt her knees weaken. Jay held her up. On the far side of the room stood a giant screen. It flickered, then lit up. Admiral Kier appeared. This time, not as a recording. He was live, and he was smiling. Welcome home. Subject 0, he said to Mara. She didn't answer. He continued. You look surprised. You thought the lab above was the only place I touched. No, that was just one finger. This, he pointed to the tanks. This is my mind. Mara looked around. What are these? Backups. Trials. Versions of you without flaws. Some smarter, some faster, some less emotional. He leaned forward, but none strong enough to lead. Mara stepped forward. And me. You were the original mistake, Kier said calmly. But even a mistake can be studied. Behind him, a new image appeared. Another chamber. Inside, another Mara. Alive. Awake. Strapped to a chair. Her eyes empty. Her arms. Kier's voice softened. Meet Subject Omega. The perfect version. Obedient, powerful, loyal. Jay whispered. She looks just like you. No, Mara said, her voice breaking. She doesn't, Kier continued. She has everything you lack, and she will do everything you never could. He turned to someone off screen. Release her. The screen went black. Then alarms started. A door in the chamber opened, and from it stepped Omega. Her skin was pale, her body covered in scars and sensors. She moved like a shadow, smooth, silent, perfect. Her eyes locked on Mara. She spoke in a flat voice. Tagi confirmed. Termination required. The children screamed. Jay stepped in front of them. Milo shouted, she's faster than Echo Prime. Stronger. Mara stepped forward. Don't hurt them. Your fight is with me. Omega paused, then charged. Their bodies collided like lightning and thunder. The force threw them across the room. Mara hit the wall hard. Her vision blurred, but she stood. Omega ran again. This time Mara ducked, grabbed her arm, flipped her over. The floor cracked. Omega rose instantly. No pain, no expression. She's not stopping, Milo cried. She doesn't feel, Mara yelled. Exactly. She doesn't feel, and that's her weakness. But Omega was already there, her hand around Mara's throat. She whispered, you were broken. I am whole. Mara struggled. You're not whole. You're hollow. Suddenly, one of the little girls ran forward. Stop. Don't hurt her. Omega turned just for a second, and that was enough. Mara elbowed her in the ribs, kicked her off. Get back. She shouted at the child. Omega stood again, but now her hands trembled slightly. Milo watched the screens. Her neural core is confused. She wasn't programmed for compassion. She doesn't understand why someone would protect you. Jay shouted. Then let's show her more. One by one, the children stepped forward. They surrounded Mara. Tiny hands. Brave faces. Omega froze. Her systems blinking fast. Input overload. Logic failure. Jay walked beside Mara. We choose her, not you. Not the weapons. Not the lies. Milo pressed a button on the control pad. All the tanks started to drain. The clones inside began to dissolve. Kier's voice came through the speakers again, full of rage. No, stop it. I spent years perfecting them. Mara turned to the screen. You spent years building shadows? I'll spend the rest of mine building light. Then she turned to Omega. Stepped closer. I know you're scared. I know you don't understand, but you can. She held out her hand. Let me help you. Omega twitched. Her hand rose slowly. Then Kier screamed, Omega, kill her now. Omega's body shook violently. Then she screamed. A long, painful, human scream, and collapsed. Jay caught her. Milo rushed forward. She's shutting down, her systems rejecting the conflict. Mara knelt beside her. Can we save her? I don't know, but she's human enough to hurt. Omega opened her eyes. What am I? Mara held her hand. You're not a weapon. You're not a number. You're my sister. Omega's lip trembled, and for the first time she cried. Behind them, the tanks exploded. Fire spread. The room shook. Milo shouted, we need to get out now. Jay picked up Omega. She's alive. We take her. Mara turned one last time toward the burning. Screen Kier was gone. Only static remained. They ran up the elevator, through the tunnel, down out into the cold night. Behind them, the mountain exploded. The clones, the pain all buried. Mara stood in the snow, holding Omega's hand. The children gathered around. Jay whispered, you did it. But Mara shook her head. No, we started it. In the distance, a signal beeped on Milo's device. He checked it. His eyes widened. There's another signal. Mara frowned. Another lab. No, he said slowly. A distress call. From someone using Mara's name. From a place none of them expected. A military ship commanded by someone who once gave the orders. Someone who never thought she'd return. Admiral Kier's ship, and the person calling. Subject 1 requesting asylum. The sky was dark and cold as Mara, Milo, Jay, and the children approached the massive military ship silently floating on the ocean. The ship was a fortress, black steel, sharp edges, and guarded by drones that hovered like angry birds. Every part of it screamed danger. Mara stood at the edge of the small boat they used, her scar burning under her coat. She was the original Subject 0, but the one calling for help claimed to be Subject 1. Someone who had once been part of Kier's plan, but now wanted to escape it. Milo checked the signal strength. It's coming from inside. Not far. Jay looked at Mara. Ready? She nodded slowly. This ends here. They slipped into the shadows of the ship's hull. A narrow ladder led up to a hatch. Milo picked the lock silently. Inside, the cold metal hall smelled of oil and power. No one seemed to be watching, but Mara's heart raced. She knew this place too well. She had been here controlled, here broken here. They moved quietly, following the signal. Finally, they reached a door marked containment. Inside, the light was low, and there, standing alone, was a woman. Her hair was silver gray, pulled back tightly, her eyes sharp and clear. She looked nothing like Mara, but something was familiar. Mara stepped forward. Are you Subject 1? The woman smiled sadly. Yes, I am. Why did you send the distress call? Mara asked. I want out, but I can't leave alone. Jay frowned. Why come to us? Subject 1's eyes softened. Because you're the only ones I trust. Milo's voice was low. What happened to you? She sighed. I was like you, a weapon, a memory vault, but I saw the truth too late. Kier's control is stronger than you think. He built failsafes inside a soul designed to stop rebellion. Mara's heart sank. Failsafes. Yes. If we try to escape, systems activate. They'll track us, erase us, or worse. Suddenly, alarms blared, red lights flashed. Jay grabbed his gun. Trap? Mara's heart pounded, the doors locked, and then, from the shadows, soldiers appeared. They wore black armor with Kyr's insignia. Step away from the subject, a voice ordered. Mara stepped forward. We're not leaving without her. The soldiers laughed. Admiral Kyr himself is waiting for you, one said. He wants to see the original. Mara swallowed hard. The doors slid open. They entered a large room, and there, standing tall, was Kyr. He smiled coldly. Welcome back, Subject 0. Mara's eyes burned with anger. You won't win. Kyr's smile didn't fade. I never lose. Subject 1 stepped forward. Kyr, we don't have to do this. He laughed. You're a virus. A mistake. But you're mine? Mara's hands clenched. She looked at Subject 1. We fight together. Kyr nodded. Then let the final test begin. Suddenly the floor beneath them shook. Panels opened. Robotic soldiers emerged. The fight was on. Mara, Jay, Milo, and Subject 1 fought side by side. The children waited outside. Their hearts pounding. Every step forward was a battle. Every breath, a victory. And as they pushed toward the control room, Mara saw something terrifying on the screens. A countdown less than 10 minutes. Kyr smiled. This ship will self-destruct if I die, and I intend to die last. Mara gritted her teeth. We don't have time. Subject 1 looked at Mara. I have access codes. Milo connected his device. Unlocking now. The clock ticked. Seconds passed like hours. Finally, the doors to the control room opened. Inside, Kyr stood, surrounded by machines. He raised a weapon. Mara raised hers. You lost. Kyr laughed. Not yet. Suddenly the room shook violently. Lights flickered. The ship began to tilt. Kyr stumbled. Mara took her chance. She fired. Kyr fell. Kyr fell. The countdown stopped. Silence. The ship stopped moving. Mara looked around. We did it. Subject 1 stepped forward. I'm free. Jay smiled. Milo nodded. Mara felt something inside her. Shift. Hope. For the first time in years. She wasn't broken. She was whole. But as they prepared to leave the ship, Mara looked at Subject 1. Who are you really? Subject 1 smiled. Your sister? The cold air of the ship's deck stung Mara's face as the morning light began to break through dark clouds. The war was over, or so it seemed, but Mara's heart was heavy. Subject 1, her sister, stood beside her, silent and watching. Mara couldn't stop asking herself, how had they both survived? How had they become so different? They walked into a small room below deck, the hum of the ship around them. Subject 1 looked down at her hands so like Mara's, but with the years of pain etched in them. I'm sorry, her sister finally said. I never meant for this to happen. Mara looked at her, eyes softening. Neither did I. We're born into a war we didn't choose. Subject 1 nodded. But Kyr made us his weapons. And when I tried to break free, he made me watch everything I lost. Mara sat down, exhausted. Like what? Her sister swallowed. Our family. Our real family. Mara's eyes widened. You knew. Subject 1's voice was barely a whisper. I found the records. Hidden deep in his archives. You weren't just a soldier. You were his daughter. The Admiral's own daughter. Mara's breath caught. That can't be. Subject 1 reached into a small bag and pulled out a worn photo. It showed a young woman holding 2 baby girls, twins. One with dark hair, one with silver. A name was written at the bottom. Alina and Mara Kyr. Mara stared at the photo, heartbreaking. Alina, her sister, smiled sadly. That's me. Mara's mind raced. Why hide this? Why make us fight? Because he wanted control. Total control, Alina said. He erased us from history to make us weapons without ties. Without feelings, but he never could erase the blood. Mara's scar burned. He made me fight my own sister. Alina nodded. And he planned to use us against each other until only one remained. The ship shuddered suddenly. An alarm blared. Rushed in. They found us. We're surrounded. Milo looked at the screens. Security forces. More soldiers loyal to Kyr. Mara stood, feeling something inside snap. We end this. Together. The sisters exchanged a look, a silent promise. They led the children through narrow corridors, fighting side by side. Alina was fierce, precise. But Mara felt something softer in her, sadness beneath the steel. They reached the command deck, and there, waiting, was Kyr's last guard, a giant man, cold and unyielding. Stop them, he growled. The battle was brutal. Alina fought with everything she had. Mara matched her blow for blow. Jay and Milo backed them up, protecting the children. But just when they seemed to gain the upper hand, the guard caught Mara off guard, slammed her against the wall. Pain exploded in her side. Alina screamed, rushing to help, but the guard knocked her back. The children cried out. Mara struggled to stand, her vision blurred. But then, from the corner of her eye, she saw the children, not scared, not weak. They were rising together. One by one they joined the fight. Their small hands and fierce hearts overwhelmed the guard. He fell. Mara gasped. Alina reached her side. We're stronger than he thought. Mara nodded, tears in her eyes. But the battle was far from over. From the shadows, a new figure emerged. A woman with cold eyes and a cruel smile. Hello, sisters. Mara froze. Alina's hand tightened. The woman stepped forward. I am the true heir of Admiral Kyr. My name is Vera. The room grew cold as Vera stepped forward, her eyes shining with cruel confidence. Mara and Alina stood side by side, their hands clenched into fists, ready for whatever came next. Vera smiled. You think you've won? You think your scars make you strong? No, they make you weak. Mara's heart pounded. She looked at Alina. Who is she? Elena's voice was low but fierce. She's my sister too, the one he kept hidden, the one he raised with his full power. Mara's mind reeled. How many sisters do we have? Vera laughed. Enough to remind you that family isn't love, it's control. Jay and Milo moved closer, weapons ready. The children gathered behind Mara and Alina, their eyes wide but steady. Vera raised her hand, and suddenly, the lights dimmed. The room filled with shadows that twisted and moved. You see, sisters, Vera said, her voice cold as ice. I am the last creation of Admiral Kier, the perfect blend of power, pain, and control. The one who never breaks. Mara swallowed her fear and stepped forward. You might be perfect, but you don't have what matters most. Vera's eyes narrowed. What's that? Heart, Mara said softly. The wounds you hide? The pain you refuse to feel. That's what makes us human. Vera sneered. Feelings are weakness. I am beyond that. Suddenly, she lunged. The battle was fierce, more brutal than anything Mara had faced before. Vera moved with terrifying speed and strength, her attacks precise and relentless. Mara dodged, blocked, and countered, but the pain in her side flared. With every move, Alina joined the fight, their movements perfectly in sync, a dance of two sisters who had finally found each other. The children watched, their breaths held tight. In the heat of battle, Mara felt her scar burning like fire. Suddenly, memories flooded her, every moment of pain, every tear, every fight to survive. Her wounds were not just scars, they were stories. Strength. With a fierce cry, Mara summoned every ounce of her will and pushed Vera back. The room shook. Vera stumbled. Mara saw her chance. With a final blow, she knocked Vera to the ground, but instead of finishing her, Mara reached out a trembling hand. Your pain doesn't have to control you, she said. Vira looked up, eyes blazing with rage and something else, confusion. I don't want to be your enemy, Mara whispered. For a moment, silence. Then Vera's body softened. Tears welled in her eyes. The power in the room shifted. Alina stepped forward, joining hands with Mara and Vera. We're family, Alina said. Broken? Yes. But together? Slowly, the harsh walls of the ship seemed less cold. Outside, the first light of dawn broke through the clouds. Milo smiled. It's over. Jay nodded. For now. Mara looked at her sisters. Her scars no longer felt like chains. They were the marks of survival, love, and hope. And when she finally revealed her wounds to the Admiral watching from afar, even he couldn't speak. Because some battles don't end with weapons.